Normally, the January transfer window has it all. Clubs do good business, you also see a lot of panic buys. Well, mostly panic buys actually. So in this video I'm going to be looking at the most expensive winter transfers 11 ever. And believe me, this 11 is filled with Premier League transfers. So definitely expect your club to feature here. And also, if you already know who the most expensive winter transfer ever is, let me know in the comments down below. And if you don't know, of course, feel free to guess as well. So without further ado, let's get right into the 11 and start off with the goalkeeper. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect my club Ajax to feature immediately in this 11 because we just signed a new goalkeeper, Nuri from Villarreal. The fee that the club paid for the player is 10 million euros, 8 million fixed and 2 million in add-ons. I also could have picked another player here. Zhang Lu apparently is a goalkeeper that played in China. Tianjin Quanjin, a club that right now doesn't even exist anymore, apparently paid 10 million euros for the goalkeeper back in 2016. When Chinese football was in its prime, they could spend a lot of money, but eventually the bubble had to burst, and that's exactly what happened in China. That's probably mainly the reason why this club doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, I have two options, and of course, sue me that I'm going with the option for my club Ajax. This weekend Nuri played his first Eredivisie match for Ajax. Fortunately, it was a 0-0 draw. At least he managed to keep a clean sheet. And of course, this transfer happened literally like just over a week ago. There's not really much to say about this transfer anymore, so let's move on to the defense. In this 11, we're going to play with 3 center backs. So the first player we're going to talk about is Aymeric Laporte. Laporte joined Manchester City from Athletic Club de Bilbao for 65 million euros. At the time, his market value was only 25 million euros, so this was definitely a big transfer for the player. At the age of 28, it's safe to say that this transfer definitely worked out. Since joining the club, Laporte has been great for Manchester City, winning multiple titles, 4 Premier Leagues, which not a lot of players can say. At one point, Laporte's market value even went to 75 million euros, showing how great he was doing for the club. Unfortunately, Laporte is also a very injury-prone player. So in his 6 seasons with the club, he missed a lot of games. That's also the reason why so far this season he only managed to play 18% of the available minutes in the Premier League. But like I said, definitely a great transfer both for club and player, as Laporte is edging in on 200 appearances for Manchester City, having won multiple titles. You really can't say that this transfer has been unsuccessful. Now it's time to talk about one of the most influential winter transfers we've seen in recent history. In January 2018, Liverpool paid 84.5 million for Virgil van Dijk, who already showed that he was a great defender at Southampton in the Premier League. Again, at the time, this was a huge transfer. When he joined the club, his market value was 30 million euros, but I really don't have to say much. This has been one of the best transfers Liverpool ever made. Just like with Laporte, you can see that after the moment Van Dijk joined Liverpool, the club started to win many trophies. His transfer value even went to 100 million euros at one point. And I mean, what can you say? He won the Champions League, the Premier League, the Club World Cup, the FA Cup, the English Super Cup, and in 2019 he was even voted as UEFA's best player in Europe. When this transfer happened, I'm pretty sure a lot of people thought that this was a panic buy, but 5 years later we can say that this has been one of the best transfers that has ever been made in the winter transfer window. The last of the 3 center backs is Benoit Badiashile. Chelsea just signed the player for a fee of 38 million euros, which seems fair. At the moment his market value is 40 million euros, so this seems about right. Badiashile still is only 21 years old, so this is definitely a transfer for the future. The player has been great for AS Monaco for some years now, and like I said, this is definitely a transfer for the future. They gave him a 7-year contract. I don't think he will stay at the club for the entirety of the contract, but at the age of 21 this guy is definitely a promising player. So let's see how he will do in the Premier League, but the expectations definitely are high, as he's one of the most expensive defenders signed in the winter transfer window. It's time to move on to the midfield, and the first player we're going to talk about is absolutely insane. One of the biggest flops that Tottenham ever had, that ever played in the Premier League. Eventually joined Barcelona while already playing in China for 40 million euros. But the amazing thing is, at Barcelona this guy actually did very well. He scored 9 times in 34 games, winning La Liga and the Spanish Cup as well. But then after 1 season he went back on loan to Guangzhou Evergrande in China. And in January 2019, Guangzhou Evergrande made the move permanent for 42 million euros. And that is exactly why he's in this list, and I still do not understand how this happened. Barcelona bought the biggest Spurs flop for 40 million euros. He actually did well, only for him to move back to China a season later for the same fee. This guy's career is such a big mystery to me, but anyways, he's in this list. And to be fair, when I did my research, I could not believe that this guy was actually making this 11. But I have to be honest, it's fun to remember Paulinho again, because I I completely forgot about him. But let's move on to the next player. He's also Brazilian, just like Paulinho. But where Paulinho was a Premier League flop, this guy is absolutely doing a great job for Newcastle. So you guys instantly know who I'm talking about. It's Bruno Guimaraes. In January of last year, Bruno Guimaraes joined Newcastle from Olympique Lyon for 42.1 million euros, where he instantly made an impact, scoring 5 times in 17 Premier League games. So for this season, he already has 6 goal contributions in 15 Premier League games. But stats don't tell the whole story. This guy literally took Newcastle to a completely different level since joining the club. Right now, Newcastle are in top 4 and they're hoping to get Champions League football next season. And for them to achieve that, Bruno Guimaraes has to play exactly the way he's been playing last season and also this season. And if that happens, I'm pretty positive that Newcastle United are capable of surprising us all. The formation that I went with for this 11 is a 3-5-2. So we already talked about the 3 center backs, we talked about the 2 holding midfielders. So that means that it's time to talk about the left winger, the attacking midfielder and the right winger right now. And after that we're going to move on to the 2 strikers, but let's start off in left wing, where again we're going to talk about a new player, somebody that literally signed today for Chelsea. Because the club from London managed to sign the Ukrainian player Mikhailo Mudryk for a total package of 100 million euros, a fee of 17 million euros fixed and 30 million euros in add-ons, which I'm not gonna lie is very expensive, but this player might actually be worth it. He's only 22 years old, he has been absolutely bossing it in the Champions League. His market value is already 40 million euros and this guy might actually be the next big talent. I saw this guy play in the Champions League for Shakhtar and I also saw him play against my club Ajax in a friendly where he also was absolutely insane. He scored that game as well. Arsenal also wanted to sign the player, but Chelsea did what they do best to hijack the transfer. But I mean, fair play, they had to pay a lot of money, but they got a great talent for it in return. And if this transfer wouldn't have happened, then Chelsea would have had another player in this position, because Pulisic, prior to Mudryk's signing, was the most expensive left winger signed in the winter transfer window. Because in 2019, Chelsea paid 64 million euros to sign the player to the club. The attacking midfielder of this 11 is Bruno Fernandes, or as normal people say, Bruno Fernandes. In 2020, Manchester United paid 63 million euros to Sporting to sign the player. And not gonna lie, at the moment I had my doubts. Around this time period, Manchester United was very unfortunate in signing players. They had a lot of transfers that completely didn't work out. And even though I saw that Bruno Fernandes had some great numbers in Portugal, I thought that this would be the next Manchester United flop, but this guy completely proved me wrong. Since joining the club, he didn't have a single season where he scored less than 10 goals for the club. And in his second season, he even managed to score 28 times in 58 games, having scored 18 of those goals in the Premier League. So like I said, in the beginning I thought that this was a terrible transfer, a panic buy for Manchester United, but in the end this transfer for sure worked out for the club. Now it's time to move on to the right winger of this 11, and immediately this is the most expensive winter transfer ever, and at the same time also one of the worst January transfers ever. In January of 2018, just after losing Neymar, Barcelona thought it would be a great idea to sign Coutinho from Liverpool for 135 million euros. And in Barcelona's defense, at the time this was actually a transfer that made sense. Coutinho was one of the Premier League's best players, and actually big clubs like Barcelona were always going to be interested. His first 6 months with the club were actually pretty successful. He scored 10 and gave 6 assists in only 22 games, but after that things went horribly wrong for both Coutinho and Barcelona. Apart from a decent loan spell with Bayern Munich, Coutinho completely lost it, and right now Coutinho is a completely different player and not in a good way. After barely playing for Barcelona since 2020, he went to Aston Villa last season, where the start of his Aston Villa career was actually pretty decent, but so far Philippe Coutinho failed to get a single goal contribution this season in 16 Premier League games for the club. And it's pretty unfortunate what happened to Coutinho's career, and in hindsight the 135 million euros that Barcelona paid Liverpool for the player turned out to be an absolutely horrendous transfer. Now let's talk about the 2 strikers in this 11. The first player we're going to talk about is Dusan Vlahovic. In January of 2022, Juventus paid Fiorentina almost 82 million euros for Vlahovic, who at that point was doing great for Fiorentina. He already managed 2 seasons scoring more than 20 goals for the club, and at Juventus so far he has also been decent. If the fee of 82 million euros has been justified so far, I really can't say, but we have to give the player some time. He's only still 22 years old. Last season he became the second top scorer of Serie A with 24 goals. There's no doubt that this guy definitely has talent, but in my opinion he still has to work quite a lot in order to make that 82 million euro fee justified. The last player in this 11 is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who joined Arsenal from Borussia Dortmund in January January of 2018 for 64 million euros. For Arsenal, this was a great transfer. In his second season, he immediately scored 31 goals. And the season after, he managed 29, so this guy clearly was a goal machine. It's sad that things ended the way they ended between Arsenal and Aubameyang, because as we all know, in January of last year, he left the club for Barcelona, where again he did really well with 11 goals in just 17 games. But at the moment he's having trouble scoring for Chelsea, which is not a big surprise. The whole club is a shambles right now, and there are actually rumors that Barcelona want to buy him back. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there, but I don't care what anybody says. Aubameyang to Arsenal for 64 million euros in 2018 was a great transfer. So guys, that's the video done. Let me know in the comments down below, who do you think is the best winter transfer ever? As always, be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, click my fingers on the end screen right now, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.